Julia Lynn.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is 12 noon, par for the course. People are not on time. And so I am Alex Johnson. Happy New Year, the year 2022, to our first club meeting for Plano West Rotary for the year. As you know, I am your president. I will give everybody a warning. All three of our Zoom techs are not available. So I'm the backup of the backup of the backup of the backup, and I haven't done this in a year and a half while running the meeting. So I think I've got all of our things done. So with that, normally I would turn this over to our Sergeant of Arms. He is not online. Fred, Catherine, is Steve Lawton there in person? Is Steve in person, you guys?
No, he's not.
Okie dokie. So would anybody like to run Bragg's?
I'll do it.
Hey, you're awesome, Glenn. Take it away.
So first of all, it's not a brag, but I want to update people on, I got a text today from Kent Stone, member of ours that's been battling cancer for a while. Today's the day I go in for my hard chemo with the transplant on Friday after they flush out the chemo. So Kent's going through chemo right now. We have a group text of 4 or 5 that he's on, that if he needs, a ride or he needs something, then he just texts this group and the first one responds, goes and helps him out. So a little bit on Kent. And I saw Chuck Spence recently. He's had some surgeries, but it's doing a little better. He's hoping to be here soon. So any brags over here?
Well, Glenn, while we're talking about our club members, you want to mention Gary as well?
Sure. So Gary Busing is money. We had our big Christmas gala at his amazing house and all that, everything he had there. Well, after that, I guess, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, he had triple bypass.
On Christmas Eve, the triple bypass surgery.
This was like a week after, I guess, our thing there. I don't know. Anyway, he's I guess doing okay, but he's trying to okay, I need to reprioritize things here. So he's asking for prayers, I guess, but also I think he's going to step down from the scholarship. So somebody else might want to step up for that. He's run that ever since I've been in this club and more. So what did I leave out, Alex?
That's it. So he's not leaving the club. He's just taken a indefinite leave of absence. His life is changing with having a triple bypass. If everybody can understand that. So we need to be in prayers for him, Chuck, and Kent, and definitely reach out and let them know you're thinking about him. Tell you what, Glenn, you're off the hook. Our delinquent Sergeant of Arms has just showed up. So I'm going to throw you under the bus, Steve. Take it away. You're muted.
I'm now unmuted. And as always, I can count on Alex to throw me under the bus without any hesitation whatsoever.
That's what friends are for.
That's right. So let's get some brags going today. I think I'm going to start with Julia Lynn. Would you like to brag?
Yeah, of course. So I just kind of want to brag on Alex for picking up my call last night, just so we could catch up. It was a really great conversation, and I always appreciate just the support in Rotary in general.
Thank you very much, Julia. Tom Posey, would you like to brag today? You are muted. Tom, hello, Tom.
He's working on it.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a good day in the neighborhood. Business is good. We're looking forward for a great 2022.
2022.
Right, that one too.
All righty. Thank you very much, Tom. Michael Cook. would you like to brag today? Michael?
You know, I don't have a ton to brag on today. I made the meeting. I'm pretty excited about that since it's been a little while. So just excited that I'm here.
Good start to 2022. Thank you very much. Joy Hinkleman, would you like to brag? Hello, Joy.
She's in Michigan. She might be.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I was saying, forgive me for not turning my camera on. We're driving down the road from Michigan. So that's kind of my brag, was that I was able to spend the last week with my husband and his uncle. It's been a beautiful, white couple of days after Christmas visit. So just happy to have had time to be up here.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us from nice, warm Michigan. Let's see here. Jamie Jackson, would you like to brag today?
Sorry, I was muted there. I guess the only brag I have is that I actually in December started a new role with a company that I had been trying to get on with for a long time. So
Fantastic.
thank you.
Congratulations. With
Thank
some
you.
of the, yeah, you're welcome. Some of the peeps at Norma's Cafe, would y'all like to brag?
I don't brag.
I'll brag. Do you want us to face the?
That's probably better, yeah.
This is weird because my back is to everybody here, but hey, it's Jennifer Schertzer in case my face is tiny on screen. I was gonna brag that I got to volunteer this week at the PALS, which is the Plano Overnight Warming Shelter, earning Rotary some volunteer hours. And I didn't get to volunteer with our team because we're not on call yet, but I answered an open call. And it was really awesome to meet the people, the guests that they serve, and then meet other community servants. So it was really cool.
Thank you very much. Janelle, would you like to brag?
Hang on, Steve, we're not done.
Okay, sorry.
Steve, sorry. This is James, touching base. I am bragging about, well, half of our 4 boys, our adult boys, they came home from foreign countries this past week. So one came from Boston, wherever that is, and the other one came from Las Vegas. So they both ended up, we hadn't seen them because they were out in those foreign countries with their girlfriends, and strategically, I should say, they both acquired COVID. So it had to extend their stay for 2 extra weeks. They both conveniently acquired, they were never really ill. I think it was a falsehood. So we're questioning the boys about, yeah, you actually had to stay, but happy to have all 4 of the boys back in town with us. Thank you, guys.
Amen to that. Before I move
Steve,
on,
I think our
anybody
guest
else?
Nadja asked if she could brag.
Absolutely.
I'll join the party. Good afternoon, everyone. I actually live in Plano. I will make it in person. And I want to brag on Alex. Thank you so much for returning call back. I know it was a little late on last night, but really appreciate your plugging me into what's happening, the new changes, and a little bit of miscommunication. It's all great, and I'm so excited to be a part of the group. I've been thinking and praying for a very long time, so I am looking forward to see everyone in real life, virtual life, whatever life, as long as we're alive. Here you go, I'm rhyming. And I am actually from St. Petersburg, Russia, speaking of a different country.
Very
Well,
cool.
glad you
Welcome.
could join us today. Thank you. How about Isabel Ann? Would you like to brag?
Really nothing to brag about, just happy I survived the holidays.
There you go. That's a start.
We all stayed pretty healthy and well fed and warm. So happy about that.
Fantastic. Janelle, would you like to brag? Janelle Berry Cook.
Hi, nothing major. I'd like to echo that. Everyone is, knock on wood, healthy in my house. And that feels like a huge brag given right now, what's happening environmentally, I guess.
Yeah, having a healthy family is a lot to be thankful for right now. Absolutely. John Stafford, would you like to brag?
You know, I always have a brag, and I'm going to brag on my daughter, Katerina, and on Jennifer Schertzer, because Jennifer organized getting our Rotary members out to do the lights on the farm before the holidays. And my daughter got to have her chance to come out and be a cashier for the first time and actually do her first work in her entire life, and was sitting there running the register, charging people for their s'mores. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever, that she actually got into it, learned the customer service, was working with the people. And so that was, you know, made me very proud, but it was Jennifer putting it all together that enabled her to do that. So I thank Jennifer for giving her the opportunity.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Lisa Leach, would you like to brag today?
Yeah, I'll brag real quick. I'm healthy, thank goodness, because my husband tested positive for COVID and I just got my results back and I'm negative. So I'm super happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean.
Somehow I
I've
escaped it.
tested a couple times lately too.
Well, that's a big brag, Lisa, because you're immunocompromised. So you were the first one I would think would get sick. So praise the Lord for that.
Yeah, my immune system's working.
All right. Anybody else like to brag? I'm just going to open it up.
What about our guest speaker? We know he's going to talk about the state, but come on, Matt, you have to have something to brag about.
I guess I have something in common with you. My kids, although they weren't overseas, they were out of state and they came and were here for the holidays. So that was a big blessing for us. I'm real grateful for that. Now, do I have to pay? I thought you had to pay when you brag. Is that?
No. Well,
like
when we're all in person, we usually let you pay, but we're not requiring it right now.
I took all my cash out of it, so I literally have no cash.
And you could always
common
give us
thing
money.
for a
We're not
dad
going to
with
turn it
kids at
down.
home. All the money goes away when the kids show up. Anybody else want to brag, Roxana?
Hi, well, I do have COVID. Sorry, I don't put the camera on, but I was diagnosed yesterday. But I'm fine. I'm just congested and a lot of cough, but that's all. So I'm in the bedroom by myself, isolated from all the family. Everybody's fine, no COVID for them. But I want to brag that I'm fine and that everything is gonna be fine. I think the worst was over the first day.
So we're going to have to eventually brag for Anthony for doing all the driving for the girls.
Oh yes, school starts tomorrow, so he's gonna have to. We're gonna have to talk about that.
All right, Mr. President, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, I'll have a brag. I think most people know about it. I've just started a new company, business coaching. So I'm excited, doing a lot of activities. And if anybody's ever started, I started a few companies, so everybody knows you're working, 90 hours a week in the beginning. So, but it's a lot of fun. So that's my big brag for the new year. So with that, we are going to turn it over to our amazing person who's going to do our invocation, because she has COVID. So I'm just glad you're here, Roxana. Take it over and do our invocation.
Thank you, Alex. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the year that has passed and the many, many blessings you gave us. Father, please lead us each step of this new year. Please guide our decisions and turn our hearts to deeply desire you above all else.
Thank you, Roxana. Now we'll ask Patrick to lead us in the pledge.
Everybody could please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, before I move into the Rotary moment, I do want to congratulate everybody for being here. I think online we have 18 people and I see 2, 4, 6 in person. I didn't know, we usually run about 30. I didn't know what it was going to look like today because we haven't had a meeting in 2 weeks and there's a lot of things happening. So thank you for everybody for making time out of your new year to participate in our meeting, and looking forward for a fantastic year going forward. And just to remind everybody, when we had our election, which was just a couple meetings ago, Joy Hinkleman will be our upcoming president in July, and then Tamara Thomas will be our president-elect in July. And Tamara, are you here? I see Fred, and a lot of times you guys join together. So Tamara, are you here as well? We have our better half. Actually, so Fred's here, so cool. All right, well, what I want to do is kick off the year talking about the foundation. And as we always point out, the Rotary Foundation is our nonprofit. Just kind of like the Cancer Society, they collect donations for their nonprofit. United Way, as Rotarians, the Rotary Foundation is our nonprofit. And that's who we're looking, that's who we are supporting and promoting. And one of the important things, especially now with Joy coming up as president, we've explained this many times before, as we raise funds for the Rotary Foundation, that allows us to qualify for a district grant from the Rotary Foundation the following year. So all this fundraising we've been doing this year is to allow Joy to be able to get a district grant for next year. So please continue to donate to the Rotary Foundation, because we haven't hit our goal, which is basically, I think it's $120 a member per capita. And so otherwise we're not going to get the full district grant like we usually do, which is $3,500. And so we don't want to hamstring Joy as starting her year. So please contribute to the Rotary Foundation. So with that, I'm going to show a video to talk about it.
Raindrops fall from the sky. They may be small, but together they make a mighty ocean. In the same way, your commitment to doing good in the world enables the Rotary Foundation to fund the projects that you care about. Last year, even during a pandemic, hundreds of thousands of donors like you gave more than $440 million. Your generosity allowed the foundation to fund more than 2,000 global grants, creating opportunities for people everywhere to respond to their community's unique needs. A $15 donation could buy polio vaccines. A water filter cost only $50. And $100 could provide COVID-19 training. You supported causes such as fighting disease, building strong communities, and promoting lasting peace. So whether you gave $1 or $1 million, you gave help and hope. The people whose lives you've touched, the families, the parents, the children, thank you. And so do we.
And I want to thank everybody who has been donating. Just as a reminder, we just finished selling pecans, and we use pecans directly for our high school scholarship program, of which we give out 3 $2,000 scholarships every year, and to high school graduates that have demonstrated a commitment to community service, and also who have been active in Rotary Youth Services. And we're actually really privileged to have 3 of our past scholarship recipients have joined our club. Julia Lynn, who's on the phone now. We have Kayla Stovall, and then we also have Bianca Weimer, who have all been past recipients of it. The other area that we use our district grants for, we sell pecans, and then we use district grants to be able to fund basically that total of $6,000. And then we also use district grant money to fund Camp Ryla, who Fred Biemendorfer has been running that for years. He's on the district Ryla staff, and we sponsor 4 students for that week leadership camp. And that's also what we use the district grants for. And once again, we are honored to have a number of our past Rylarians who they go through Ryla the summer before their senior year. Julia Lynn is actually a Rylarian and a Ryla counselor. We have Zane Carlson, who's our club secretary. He's a Rylarian and a counselor, a Ryla counselor. Sam Lahani, who's also a Rylarian and a counselor. Then we also have Bianca, who's also been through Ryla, and Antonio as well, and Kayla Stovall again. So, you know, when we donate to the Rotary Foundation, one, it's helping projects all over the world, but us locally, we're using our district grants to basically fund the future of leaders in high school who they go to college, they become adults, and they serve their community. And we're honored that a lot of them join our club as well. So please, once again, big pitch, you know, donate to the Rotary Foundation. So with that, let's talk club business, because we haven't done this in a while. I do want to thank, I'll start off by saying we have our district roundtable on January 15th. It's located in Irving, but there's also a Zoom aspect. Our club is hosting it. So I'm going to be there in person. I would like as many of our club members actually show up, because it kind of looked goofy that the fastest growing Rotary club in the United States, the most outstanding Rotary club in our district, the 8th largest club in our district, and we don't have anybody show up. So please show up to Irving. And I want to thank Jen Schertzer, who is local there. She is working with our different committee chairs, putting together videos, talking about what we have done. So that will be exciting as well. And so mark your calendars for January 15th. It's on a Saturday at 9:30 in Irving. We need as many of our club members there so we can let everybody remember how amazing Plano West Rotary is. On January 17th, 6 p.m., we have our board of directors meeting that's done via Zoom. Anybody can join, all club members can join. So we never get club members join. So I decided I'm gonna start adding this to the club business to remind everybody. So in a couple weeks, you know, Zoom in, we keep it, we're 6 to 7. We keep it lean and mean. So please join, learn about all the governance. You know, we have 24 club committees, which these are actually the recommended committees from Rotary for large clubs. So we have a lot going on, and we'd like for you to know part of it. Now, this is the part that I love, and you guys heard me say this, and it's especially great for our guests. So we have State Representative Matt Shaheen locally, and then we have Nadja here on Zoom. So this is new to you. Our club is a service project club. Some clubs, they base their whole club existence on showing up at weekly meetings, which we like. Yeah, we've got 24 people here. We love that, but we're a service organization. Our club is based off of community service. On average, we're doing 6 to 7 service projects a month. I think in December, we did 8. Now, we didn't do any in the last 2 weeks, so I actually didn't show it up here. I probably should have. because we didn't meet. But for the month of January, we have a lot of projects going on. So we need people to sign up. That's where the power of our club is. It's great that we have a lot of people at our meetings, but it's better that we're out there changing lives. We heard Jen talking about the Plano overnight warming station. I don't know if you remember, for the last 6 months, we've been recruiting volunteers to get trained to be able to volunteer in the overnight warming station to help the homeless in these freezing nights. And so Jen had mentioned she just did the general call. Well, we also have a team. So we have an evening. Courtney Hitt is a team leader, and you can do that. So that's really exciting. Jen also coordinated this first project let me compliment Jen on the Heritage Farmstead project. Yay. I wasn't there, but Laura was there, and I heard great things, and it was awesome to hear John talk about his daughter's participation. And I'll tell you what was special about Jen putting that together is we actually made $100 from it. We were volunteering for the Heritage Farmstead. We were basically helping them fundraise, and they gave us $100 from the commissions that we're going to be able to donate to the Rotary Foundation. So yay, Jen, for giving us an opportunity to serve and at the same time do a little fundraising for the foundation and having fun. So that was awesome. And so now I'll roll into these upcoming projects. To give another shout out for Jen, this is like a celebrate Jen moment. She's actually connected us with Bed Start. So every month we have, I believe, 10 volunteers that are delivering furniture on a Saturday. The next one is January 8th coming up. Sign up. I think there might be some slots available. It fills up all the time. I think this will be the 3rd time we've done it, and I think they filled up. So if you would like, it's not hardcore. I mean, if you don't want to lift heavy, you don't take heavy stuff. And so all ages can do it. So don't think you're going to be carrying furniture on your back, but definitely do it because it's helping those needy families getting furniture. And then we have the food pantry partnership we do with the school district. We're doing it at Armstrong Middle School on the 11th, Bowman Middle School on the 20th, and Rallison. I need to fix this slide. It's the Rallison Natatorium that's really at Williams High School on January 30th. We have Catherine and James, our great club members that coordinate that. Sign up so you can help these families in need through the school district. And this is something that we've been doing all year. And we can never have enough volunteers almost for that, from what I'm hearing. And then also on January 22nd, we have our Clean Up Plano. It's Adopt the Highway. This is what we do for the city. Glenn Thornton's been our team leader for that for probably 5 years going. This is something we do every other month. Once again, we cap it at 10 volunteers. It typically fills up, so sign up quickly. So you have an opportunity of picking up some trash and keeping our environment clean. So those are our projects for the month of January. Sign up, bring your friends, bring your family, and be a part of making our community awesome like it is already. So with that, I am now going to turn this over to Jamie Jackson, who is going to introduce our great guest speaker today. So take it away, Jamie.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to introduce our speaker today, Representative Matt Shaheen. He serves the citizens actually of District 66 in the Texas House of Representatives, which represents Collin County. He currently sits on the Human Services and State Affairs House committees. And previously, he served 5 years on the Collin County Commissioner's Court, representing the citizens of Precinct 1. As a commissioner, he represented Collin County on the Conference of Urban Counties Policy Committee, the Texas Juvenile Justice Advisory Committee, and the North Texas Criminal Justice Committee. Before entering politics, Representative Shaheen was appointed by then Governor Rick Perry to the State Board of Social Workers, where he chaired the board's Professional Development Committee and served on the Ethics Committee. A technology executive with 30 years of experience, the representative specializes in corporate digital transformations. He and his wife, Robin, have been married for 28 years, and they have 3 children together. They attend Prestonwood Baptist Church, where Representative Shaheen serves as a deacon, greeter, and has volunteered for years at the church's Crisis Pregnancy Center. Representative Shaheen is a native of Virginia, where he received his bachelor's degree from Randolph-Macon College and won all conference honors in football. He also holds a master's degree from SMU. Everyone welcome Representative Matt Shaheen.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you very much for having me. And I think I'm slated to talk for 20 minutes. And what I'd like to do, if I can pull it off, is only speak for 10 minutes. I'm actually pulling up a timer because I'm really lousy at keeping my time. But what I'd like to do is just maybe talk for 10 minutes and then take questions for the remaining part of the time. And that way we're focused on stuff that's of interest to you versus what's interesting to me. And we can either take questions to the end or we can wrap things up early and do it that way. So you're kind of in control. Let me say that just a little bit about the Texas legislature, a little bit of a civics lesson. The Texas legislature, we meet every other year. So every odd year, the Texas Constitution says the legislature is to convene the second Tuesday in January every odd year. So we just got done meeting this legislative session. We won't meet again until 2023 unless the governor calls the special session. So the governor has the power to always pull the legislature back into session. Those are 30-day periods, but he can call us back as often as he wanted. As you can imagine, this legislative session was disruptive, just like your lives, your home life, your work life. We're all on the House floor. It was before the vaccine got rolled out, so we're all wearing masks. We're trying to socially distance. The problem is, in the floor of the House, it's a huge room. If any of you all that haven't been down to the Capitol down in Austin, it's a massive room. The problem is there's 150 of us in that room, so it's kind of hard to social distance, but we did the best we can. And I think the vaccine started getting rolled out around, I think it was March, April time frame. So we worked through that. And but it was an odd experience. One of the things that we had to decide early on was the Capitol going to stay open or not? And I think rightfully so, the Capitol stayed open. I think it's vitally important that we hear from our constituents, on our citizens. The legislature meets on, or covers, I should say, a vast array of topics, from education to transportation to criminal justice, to ERCOT, which probably wasn't on a lot of people's radar until February. But we deal with a bunch of different topics. And quite frankly, we need to hear from the public because we are not the experts on a lot of these different topics. And so we really need, we set up a big tent, and anybody that entered the Capitol got tested. I was tested every day. My staff was tested. I was adamant my staff would get tested because I've got some interns from the University of Texas, and God knows what they're doing at night. So I was adamant that they get tested. But everything was fine. I think we ended up having a couple of members that got COVID, and they all recovered, thank God. But so from that perspective, it was obviously unusual. Probably one of the biggest challenges that we had, though, is as you recall, lots of the economy was being shut down and those types of things. We were all separated from each other, obviously. Well, what that did to the state was that we had a significant shortfall in revenues to the tune of about 12 or 13 billion dollars. It was significant. So we're going into session. We're trying to address this, this whole COVID situation. We got a huge shortfall in revenue coming to the state, and it was even a bigger problem because if you remember the session before, back in 2019, we made some very large commitments to education. It's just to give you some perspective, we will normally increase education funding somewhere around $3 to $4 billion every session, right? We have, students, our population is growing, our enrollment's growing. So we'll typically increase education funding about $3 or $4 billion, let's say. We increased it by 13 billion this last session. Now, some of that was buying down lowering your property taxes on the schools. You probably didn't feel it very much because your appraisals went up, but we made some even more significant investments in education than we normally did. Well, coming into this session, we're like pretty nervous if we can abide by those commitments. And, long story short, we were able to do that we made some very difficult decisions, but we were able to maintain those commitments. So I was really glad for that. And then February hits and we get this blanketed Arctic blast to the state of Texas. Now, what was unusual about this was normally we're a huge state, right? So normally if there's some kind of natural disaster in the state of Texas, it's usually a part of Texas, not the whole state, right? If there's a hurricane, if there's a tornado, if there is cold weather, right? I think my Facebook memories keep coming up, and I think 2009 we had a white Christmas, right? Well, this was different in that the entire state was covered with an Arctic blast for like three or four days. And we had a catastrophic event, obviously, with power to the state of Texas. We ended up losing well over 200 people perished in that. It was a catastrophe. Probably not a lot of people even knew what ERCOT was. They certainly do now. So we were able really to tackle this issue right away. So I will tell you that we are much better positioned as a state from a utility perspective this winter than we were last winter. But I will tell you, not everything's been put in place. And so it took us many years to get to where we were or this past February. It's going to take us multiple years to get us to where we need to be. But I will tell you, ERCOT just released a preliminary audit of the 300 units throughout the state of Texas that failed this past February. And all but 10 of them, so of the 300 that were audited, these were the ones that failed. You have over 600 units total. But we lost, the equivalent of the entire state of California's power output is what we lost. And so anyhow, ERCOT has come out with a preliminary report. It's going to be finalized, I think, in the next 2 weeks. But of the 300 units that they audited, so they audited to see if they were prepared. We mandated a bunch of weatherization occurred. We mandated the identification of the critical infrastructure. One of the things that happened, some people don't believe it when I tell them this happened, but you remember you probably lost your power, right, during February. If you didn't, your neighbors did, or you had friends that did. Well, that's because, again, you have these power generation plants across the state of Texas. They shut down because of the blast, because of the Arctic blast. Well, ERCOT's job is to balance the input and the output of the grid, right? So we're the demand factor, they're the supply factor. So they're managing that supply and demand. If that gets out of balance, by the way, the entire grid collapses. And that's a catastrophe. It takes weeks to get things back up. And so you would have the whole state of Texas in the dark ages. It would be an unimaginable catastrophe. So anyhow, what was happening is the local utility companies were shutting your power off. That's because they were told by ERCOT to do that, because ERCOT's got to balance the supply and demand. Well, what the utility companies did in doing that is they shut the power off to the gas company that was supplying the gas to the power plant. Wow. And so, one of the things that we ended up mandating was that, you guys, you have to identify your critical infrastructure so you don't do those types of things. I was kind of shocked we had to mandate that kind of thing, but we learned a lot. When that outage happened, I want to say we had over 70 hours of committee hearings just to find out, what exactly happened. Obviously, this was a black eye on, the state of Texas. We're this big energy state, and we lose significant amount of power. Again, literally, we lost power output, the equivalent of California. I mean, it's just amazing. So anyhow, this audit just got done, and there's only 10 units that didn't pass the audit, and so they're going through corrective action. So weatherization is for the most part in place, and I say weatherization, not winterization, because we still have extreme heat here, right? We need to be prepared for both. The power plants also have what's called these emergency operation plans. What do you do in case of a disaster? They have to have plans in place. Those have to be audited. They have to, pass inspection when those are conducted, those types of things. So again, we're better prepared, but it's going to take multiple years to make sure we're where we need to be as a state. Real quick, we also worked on, this was also a big legislative session because of redistricting. So every 10 years, the US Constitution says, hey, you states go and redraw the US congressional maps. And then the Texas Constitution says, hey, legislature, redraw the Texas House maps, the Senate maps, the State Board of Education map. So it was just a very odd legislative session. So we got through and we did that. So I went from just me personally being the state representative for essentially West Plano. So now what I have is I have West Plano, I have West Collin County, or West Frisco, that's in Collin County. So I don't have the Denton part of Frisco. And then I've got Prosper, then most of Salina. And what we did is it was a very fair, open, transparent process. There was, really days and days of testimony that we received. What we were trying to do in Collin County was a couple things, and this is just for the House seats, is we try to make sure that each of the growth corridors had one legislator. So you have the Dallas North Toll Road, the corridor, right? I mean, our growth is just unbelievable. It's not going to stop. There might be points at times where it slows down. So that's essentially me. My district goes up to Dallas North Toll Road. Then you have the US 75 growth corridor. That's represented with Leach. And so that's one of the things that we were trying to do. The other thing we were trying to do is balance out just this representation of the cities and the ISDs. So, previously I had essentially one city and two ISDs. That was mostly Plano ISD. There was 5 Frisco schools that were actually in Plano. But essentially I had one city I was representing. And then you had Representative Kenny Noble on the east part of Collin County that had a dozen, right? So she's not able to give the attention to those cities that I can to my one. So now I represent 4 cities. She still thinks represents like 8 or 9, but so we try to balance that out. So we went through that. Redistricting was done. There's lawsuits in place that will take many years. We actually just finished the lawsuits from 2010, I think just about 2 years ago. So I think that's just going to be part of the process. So let me stop. I went over my 10 minutes, but I think we've got like 15 minutes together or 12 minutes together. I can pause and take any questions and find out what's on your mind. And I think, as Alex, do we have a way to get questions like text messages or?
People on Zoom, you've got about 12 minutes till 12:55, and people on Zoom, they'll just speak up, and people local, they'll get the mic.
Okay.
And we usually have lots of great questions from people, so don't let me down, club members.
You guys, it's funny. I last or 2 weeks ago, I guess, I spoke in front of a high school government class. And there's a lot more pressure speaking to a high school class than like a Rotary club, because if you're boring them, they just whip out their cell phones and they just totally just blow. You guys are like a little bit nicer. So.
Well, we should make them turn on their cameras. There we go.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you comment on the southern border?
Yeah.
And what rights the state has and what obligations the U.S. has?
Yeah, so the questions on the southern border, that's a really big topic for us as a state as well. The question is, where does the federal, what's the federal government's role? What's the state's role? And so it's 100% supposed to be the federal government. I mean, you have immigration, customs enforcement, you got Homeland Security, and all those types of things. And the good news is, so the state, well, not good news, but the state of Texas, we've had to deploy about $3 billion. We budget $3 billion of resources down onto the Texas border because what the federal government right now is, in our view, insufficient. And so we literally have about close to 10,000 National Guards troops and DPS troopers supplementing the federal resources. And the reason why we're doing that is, I mean, there's multiple reasons. The big thing that I focus on is, not a lot of people realize this. Look, I'm the first one to brag about Texas. I love Texas. I'm proud of what we do. 1,000 people are moving here every day. We're awesome. But we're also number 2 in the nation in human trafficking. And the average age of a sex trafficking victim in the state of Texas is like a 12 to 13-year-old girl. And the cartels have actually made the decision to where they're moving off of the drug trafficking area. They're still in that, but they focus more now on human trafficking just because the profitability is more there. And it's a serious issue in the state of Texas, where our border is like the #1 entry. We have issues obviously with drugs and all those types of things. I'm sure you guys have read, or many of you have read, there's enough, I think it's fentanyl, that it could, enough dosages of that drug that it could literally wipe out the entire US population of just coming through our border. So so because of that, we're having to place a lot of state resources on the border, and we'll probably continue to do that. And then we're also doing a lot of proactive things with human trafficking and those types of things as well. In fact, I passed one of the pieces of legislation I passed, and it was bipartisan. I worked with a Democrat, really good friend of mine that's in the urban areas of Houston. But we worked on legislation together that now in the state of Texas, if you're convicted of sex trafficking a child, no parole. You're rotting in jail for the rest of your life. You're not eligible for parole. So there's a bunch of things. We have a unit under the Attorney General's office to fight human trafficking, and so the battle continues.
Matt, before you get the next question, I want to interject. Next week, our program is a representative from the U.S. State Department who specializes in human trafficking. So that's their topic. So I encourage you to, attend our meeting or at least watch the rerun, because we record everybody. So it's actually, this is Human Trafficking Month for a Rotary District 5810. And so there's a lot of emphasis on human trafficking from a Rotary perspective as well.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, because believe it or not, there's actually a lot that community members can do. I don't know the exact topic of the official from the State Department, but there's actually online training that you can take that gives you the things to watch out for if you can identify a victim of human trafficking, and if you think there's an issue there, what to do with law enforcement and those types of things. So that's good to hear, Alex. What else?
Next question.
Or maybe I covered the topics everybody wanted to hear.
No, I know my members. People have questions. They're just being shy. I'm going to pick on people. John Stafford, you're never shy.
Matt, yesterday you made a post disparaging the President of the United States for our COVID response when you were sitting there bragging at the beginning of this speech about the state's COVID response. Why do you think that we're not all in this together?
My post was not disparaging the president on his response. It was disparaging the politicization of COVID. I think it's terrible that people celebrate when, a Democrat gets COVID and then a Republican gets COVID and people celebrate it. I think that's disgusting. And it's been politicized. It just has. I have a friend in the hospital right now. I don't know if he's going to make it or not. He has COVID. This is a very serious issue. And I resent the politicization of it, and the president did politicize it. That was my post.
So I told you John wasn't shy.
Alex, this is Catherine, to kind of go further.
Can you grab the mic, Catherine? And we can't hear.
So to go along with that, if you could, in more detail, talk about how you think that our state is addressing COVID, because I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. So a couple of things that the state has focused on. One was when we were first hit with COVID, the focus on was making sure that there was enough PPE and testing, right? This was before the vaccine came out, those types of stuff. And the state did a very good job responding to that. In fact, one of the very first testing sites was in Collin County, actually in my district. But so we were able to jump on that really quick. I mean, think about the state of Texas is 29 million people. And the fact that we were able to roll out in a very short period of time testing locations was pretty darn impressive. And you really didn't hear a lot about shortage of PPE after the first couple of months. I mean, you know, you went from face masks that were only used by the medical profession to now everybody's got one. And for there not to be a shortage, this is nationwide, is pretty impressive. And then once the vaccine came in record time. The state really did a good job. We teamed up, or really the Texas Department of Emergency Management really spearheaded the distribution of the vaccine across the state of Texas. And now that thing, you can't walk anywhere without, you know, an advertisement for the vaccine, and it's free. You can get it at Walmart, you can get it at CVS. I think I got both of my shots at a CVS. And by the way, the shot doesn't hurt that much, but dang, I got the shingle shot. Holy smokes, that thing. My arm hurt for like a week. So anyhow, logistically, the state did a really good job getting the vaccine distributed. Because if you think about it, we were one of the most difficult states to distribute the vaccine because it's got to be refrigerated, and we're mostly rural, and we're a population of 29 million. So I've been very pleased with the Texas Department of Emergency Management, you know, partnering with the private sector and getting that distributed. And then what we're now focused on is the infusion of the antibodies. And both the state and the private sector has infusion centers. You can go to the state COVID website and see there's a map of where all the infusion sites are. So if either you or you know somebody that comes down with COVID and then they need that antibody treatment, and they actually can come to your house too. But so you have both state and private sector, but there's a COVID dashboard that gives you the location of all those. If you do go, or if you have a friend go, make sure they call in advance and get that done. So I've been quite pleased. Again, this gets politicized, which is I think shameful, but you know, we're going through a spike right now. That shouldn't be a surprise. Back in January when the legislature met, we were going through a spike. I think every virus, you know, it's flu season, so we always have spikes when we're indoors and those types of things. And I know there's a blame game. It's the Republicans' fault in Texas, and it's Biden's fault. And it's a global pandemic, and it's a virus. And it's just beyond silly to me that blame game happens. So my short response to you is I think the state of Texas has done a very good job responding to it. But the reality is the nation is going through a spike. There's about 1 million new cases a day. Over 10% of those are in the state of Texas because we have a lot of population. The good news is the number of hospitalizations and deaths aren't like the two spikes ago back in January. So sorry, that was a very long answer.
So you
Yes, sir.
mentioned 1,000 people a day or something coming into Texas.
Moving, to Texas, yep.
So what's the biggest concern, infrastructure wise or whatever, as we being Texas kind of starts to...
There's two things I'm concerned about. We're actually doing a pretty decent job with infrastructure. The legislature, not this session because we had shortfalls in revenue, but we've been pumping up the transportation budget, state budget, and then on top of that you have city, you have counties and federal. So we've been doing, a fairly decent job keeping up with that growth. Water, we're doing a pretty decent job. I don't know if you know, there's a reservoir being built right now up in Fannin County. So the North Texas Municipal Water District that supplies a lot of the water from North Texas. We have a state and a district 50-year plan. And what I'm worried about, and it's really not about the growth. The growth is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. What's really exciting to me is if you look at the people that are moving to Texas, like 60% are from other states, 40% are from other countries, which is awesome. So like the demographics in my area, I used to be the only minority elected official in all in Collin County, and now there's some of us in city and school board races. But a lot of our minorities are actually Asian, India, that are coming from overseas, and they have a great background. Family's important, education's important. They fit so well. In fact, I was speaking to the Indian community, and I thought I was talking to a Rotary club because they talked about all the service that they were providing the community and that type of stuff. So they fit really well in our state. But what I am worried about, it's not 100% related to the growth, but I'm really worried about the delta that exists now because of all the virtual education that occurred. I'm really worried about it. If you look, the schools around here locally, and I only got 4 minutes, but the schools locally really did a pretty good job responding to virtual education. Problem is statewide, the minority groups and the low income groups, there's a huge gap. And those are our fastest growing demographics in the state of Texas. And so all these people that are moving to Texas, the corporations that are moving here, we had over 70 companies last year move their headquarters to Texas. 70. I mean, that's like off the charts, awesome. But they're coming, one of the reasons why they're coming is our workforce. And so if we can't keep maintaining our workforce, because our birth rate in the state of Texas is flat. And so we need immigration. We need legal immigration, but we need people to move to the state of Texas. And I'm worried that this gap that exists, if we don't figure out how to close that gap, and we've seen it through the testing and that kind of stuff, the virtual education, I mean, it was necessary, but our children are behind now. We've got to close that gap. And again, it's more prevalent in the lower income and our minority communities. And so I am nervous about that and maintaining our growth and that type of stuff. So I want to respect every time. I'll be happy to take one more question.
Nope, we don't have time for more questions. What I want to do is thank you very much for speaking. You guys don't know, he and I tried to make this happen probably 9 months ago, and the schedulings weren't happening. That's why I was bummed I can't be there. But State Representative Matt Shaheen, in appreciation for your time and program, Plano West Rotary will donate $10 in your name to Rotary's Polio Plus Fund, together with the 2-to-1 matching funds from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Your $10 will turn into $30, which will provide a polio vaccine for about 50 children. And as you know, as a Rotarian, Rotary is using our polio infrastructure to aid in the vaccination for COVID-19. Even though we have a considered high vaccination rate in America, in third world countries, they are like under 10%. And so the same infrastructure that we use for polio, we're also using for the dissemination of COVID-19, because they're both cold chain vaccinations. So your donation will support that effort as well. So I really want to thank you for speaking to us, and we look forward to having you back again. I think this is the first time you've been to Plano West, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
And see, I met him at Plano Rotary, 15 years ago. So it's about time you show up at the biggest club in Plano. And so even though you can't see it locally, but hey, you've got almost 20 online. What we want to do next is I want to let everybody know, as I mentioned, next week, we're having a U.S. State Department representative, Mackenzie Bills. Her specialty is human trafficking. And that's what she's going to talk about. And so it was great to hear Matt talk about that. That's a personal passion of him. I did not know that. And I do know it is a major issue for Rotary. And so all throughout the district, there's a number of different initiatives that are focusing on human trafficking. And that's why we're having the State Department talk to us. Now, you guys will be thrilled to know I won't be here. Zane is going to run it. So we're going to have our All-Star Club Secretary run our meeting next week. I'm actually going to be I'm teaching a class all week, so I won't be available. But please definitely show up. This is an important subject. And as Representative Shaheen said, it is a big problem in Texas. We are #2 in the nation for human trafficking, and that's a big deal. Well, with that, we're going to have our youth protection officer, our community service project committee member, an amazing club member, Tara Bidwell. See, I'm making her blush here. She's going to lead us in the 4-way test. Take it away, Tara.
All right. The 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Rotary.
Rotary.
Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great week. And I won't see you next week, but be sure to be here next week and volunteer for our service projects. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.